All right. Hello, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time zone it is for you. Welcome to Disability in Screenwriting Workshop. This is one of our disability writing workshops that we do for everyone who is either writing a disabled character or is a disabled writer themselves. You are equally welcome as we discuss topics and tackle them head on in ways that aren't often done in society. And just, no topic is off the table here. Disabilities are one of the most misrepresented and misunderstood minorities in the media, and that can cause real world harm to real people. And people of any age, gender, religion, race, or socioeconomic background can be disabled. But that's not shown in the media, and that's part of what we want to change. We want there to be more disability shown because 20% of the world is disabled, and that is nowhere near represented in the media, whether in TV and film or in books or any other media that there is. So this workshop, I will come back to this. This workshop is about screenwriting, and it's every other Saturday, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. British time, and we look at characters in your screenplay, and we'll look at characters in existing TV and film, as if no one has anything to bring to us, and we'll create characters from prompts. So we recently started up our disability feedback channels where anyone can post their work if it contains a disabled character or if you're a disabled person. And we also have our writer prompts that we post each session. Welcome, Lasagna. We post different prompts, and you have 2 weeks to submit your prompts, and then the winner will be the deadline will be the day before the next session. So we have one running on WordCamp for disability in fiction, and that will be so that the deadline for that will be this Friday now. Me and or Willow will choose the winner, and the winner gets 5 script coins, and other participants will receive 2 coins. That's up to 5 pages long. We'll post one again this week, and this will be a screenplay. So in WordCamp, it will be a short story or any piece of media, basically any format, except screenplays. And then in ScriptCamp, it will just be screenplays. And yeah, so. This is disability in screenwriting, so we look at screenplays, TV, and film. And then next week in disability in fiction, we look at any other type of media, so that might include novels, short stories, comics, screenplays, and fan fictions. And I want to say maybe also podcasts and audio dramas. We'll keep it as open as we can. So yeah, the 2 workshops are very much the same in that we offer those sensitivity readings and our opinions and feedback, and we will help in any way we can. Is that all my slides? I think so. Oh no, I missed one from earlier. You must just we ask that we're respectful to all people. There are delicate and sensitive questions which we allow, but they must be asked in a respectful way. And we want this to be about giving and taking, not just taking. So, if you want feedback, then make sure that you're given feedback as well. And there are 5 types of disability that we include in this workshop. A lot of people commonly think that it's just physical disabilities, but there's also intellectual, hidden disabilities, sensory disabilities, and mental health. And they all are equally welcome here. With that all being said, welcome, Lasagna. It looks like we have a slightly smaller group of people here. But yeah, welcome anyway. I'm gonna have a weird noise. I'm sorry. I forgot to invite the. Oops.
Now recording.
I forgot to invite that bot. So I do that now. But yeah, does anyone have any projects that they would like feedback on?
No, that's not good. Okay.
No worries. Do you
Hello?
have something, Willow?
Well, I'm not quite ready for feedback. But I do have a question that I wanted to discuss.
Yeah, sure.
I'd like to write a character with DID.
Mhm.
And I've been a variety of YouTube videos like Dissociated, and a few others talking about their experiences, their alters, and such. So the character, she is a 15-year-old centaur. She I haven't quite figured out the specifics about her or about the different alters. But I'd like her to perhaps work to become a doctor. That's like her eventual goal, or at least like part of her arc is to become a doctor. And she's just one of the teenager protagonists that it's just a part of her character, but her character is not going to revolve around it, kind of thing. So she would go off in like future episodes, go do other things. That the DID would always be there, and that's just part of it. But it's not going to revolve around her trauma or arc or anything. It's going to be more her working to become a doctor and those kind of struggles and such. All right, so the question is, listening to Dissociated on YouTube. I'm wondering, in her introductory episode, how much should I even mention what the trauma is, and if it even is a good trauma or bad trauma? Because oftentimes, as I've learned by listening to Dissociated, like, it's not just a traumatic, not just a trauma. It is specifically like a repeated trauma. And also very, very early. I think like after the age of 6, I think she said. And
before the age of 8, somewhere between 6 to 8, it has to be before those years. That age.
Okay. So my question is whether I should even mention or hint at what the trauma is in her introductory episode. Basically, The main character of the episode, in this case, lasagna, just for reference, because this name might be familiar to you. It's Shalita. Shalita goes to a neighboring centaur herd, and they're in a lot of distress, and so she opts to help them and becomes friends with this character. Now, this character was not abused as a child, because I do want her to still be with her family, and her family being there to help her. She has her family's support, and they protect her. But she did have some really extreme trauma, and I wouldn't plan to go into detail on it, especially at the beginning. Maybe it's something to delve into further on. But like, should it even be mentioned or hinted at or anything, or just build the relationship between Shalita and the character? The system name is Elvira. I'm thinking Elvira, like that.
Okay. So there's a few things that I would say. Firstly, you don't have to, tell us what the trauma is, particularly not in an introductory episode. And you maybe don't even need to tell us straight up that she's part of the system. It's very common that people who are part of systems don't know that they are. So maybe she doesn't know, or it might be that they choose to hide it, which is also very common. So that I think there's lots of reasons that would say that you don't have to show it or reveal it. You could say that could be part of her story arc in her discovering her system, or in her coming to terms with it, maybe, or something like that. That could be something that you do. But yeah, you definitely don't need to go into specifics about the trauma. Yeah, so I'm not sure that it would be a bad thing. But I don't think that there's necessarily a reason to have to, if that makes sense.
Okay. I have thought about considered what you just said about, like, she doesn't know, and that is kind of normal, and you are right, and that would be the normal. The also normal would be to hide it from strangers. I would assume.
Yeah, I think the statistic is 80% of systems don't show it, or maybe even higher. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's a very high percentage that don't show it.
So that does make logical sense and realistic sense, and I do want to be as realistic as possible. However, I don't want her character to be about the DID, and I guarantee it. I guarantee that I would get it wrong. I would absolutely screw up the understanding of what people are going through when they are discovering their system, trying to establish the system, or trying to I don't know. I part of me wants to avoid one. I don't want to make her character about the DID. It's just something she has. Her alters are just an everyday part of her life. And yet she still I want to kind of show her life beyond that. So it is skipping a major step and kind of honestly unrealistic. I do get that. Another reason why it is in a fantasy world, able to play still a little bit with that. But I also don't know if that's a bad idea. That is that's also giving the message that, you know, if someone isn't acting like this, or someone doesn't publicly like hide their alters, does that mean that they're lying when they say that they do have alters? I don't want that to happen either. I just want to show someone with DID living a day-to-day normal life with friends, with the added goal that he wants to become a doctor.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
mean, I've met people with DID before, and yeah, they can totally, you know, have a normal life with friends. But yeah, it is usually the people who are, I think, fronting that are usually out and about. But if this character is unaware and it just like happens instead of it being like, okay, it's my turn kind of thing, then I think that like her character is going to kind of, the idea is going to be a bigger part of her character than it is a part of like the people I met. Like, it's always a big part of your identity to have this a disability, despite it being like, I don't want that to be what I'm all about. But a lot of things revolve around it in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very complex disorder that you're talking about. And I just think it's going to be really hard to showcase it, I think. But let me think. So this character,
That's kind of one of the reasons why, like having the trauma conversation would be important. And honestly, the trauma conversation wouldn't be with her specifically. It would be with someone else who knows of the incident.
you could, I think, an interesting way to show that off. Well, I don't want, I guess, like little things that might. No, that's kind of cruel and unusual to put your character through that, especially during something chill. But I guess I was thinking little things that might make them sort of like scared for a second, at least, and then someone just being like, "What happened right there?" And then someone talking to them about it. I don't know. It's just I do know that sometimes I get like someone could yell at me and then I could like flinch. It's like that's just how that works. Which yeah is part of like a bit of a trauma response, but it's not like a big enough reaction to be like, if I did that to my character, I wouldn't be like I'm cruel and unusual. I'd be like I'm just showing that they have something there. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you could try kind of showing it and having someone ask about it, or hi Morgana, or you could just like, I feel like there'd be no reason to ask about it if you didn't see something happen, I guess.
Right. All right. So there's an introductory scene that I'm imagining. Uh. And then beyond that, I'm trying to figure out how to get these characters to work together while showcasing the alters without being triggering, like making bad triggers kind of thing. All right,
It could
so
be them mistaking something for something else, or
maybe.
I don't know.
All right, so the
Sorry, did I
Shalita,
hear that you wanted to have the alters switch but without a negative trigger? Is that what you were saying?
no, not well, not unless it fits the scene. Like the first scene that I'll describe, I'd say it's a negative trigger.
Mm-hmm.
But as they are growing a friendship, I don't like. I've been watching what are like good triggers and bad triggers. I need a way to be able to to introduce a few of the alters, and to build a relationship between Shalita and Elvira.
Yeah.
Right. Their very first interaction, it's a bad trigger.
Mm-hmm.
And scares Shalita, and she feels really bad because even though it's neither of their faults. All right. Anyway, let me explain the introductory scene. Shalita is making a delivery to this other farm. She is delivering a load of fruit and such, and the farm is in really bad shape. It's in kind of shambles, basically. And this family has not had much money, and so they haven't been able to get like actual whole fresh fruit. So Elvira sees that Shalita has these fruits, imagine like an orange or something a little bit big. And Shalita is like, oh, you want one of these? Okay. Shalita grabs the fruit and just kind of tosses it to her. But Elvira doesn't catch it. She kind of ducks from it and it hits her. And that is the negative switch to the protector, who then starts yelling at Shalita, don't attack us. Why are you attacking us? And then the mother comes out, and she's trying to calm her down, that it was just an accident. Nobody's attacking you. It's okay. And Shalita's just scared. It's like, and she's told she needs to leave. Just leave now. And so she goes home and she feels really bad about what happened. And so she gets her brother to go with her to go back, because they want to do something nice. Like, she wants to make up for this misunderstanding and help things out. And that is where they are able to, by then, Alvira has calmed down, that altar has calmed down, and she's her more happier self, and they work together to fix up the farm. Shalita is kind of teaching her how to do these home repairs, and they work together. During those home repairs, I do want to showcase maybe one or two altars, but I want the relationship to grow from there. So that's what I am thinking.
Yeah, that's good. And I think that sorry, I was grabbing a quick snack. I think that it's good that you're including both negative and positive triggers. And yeah, painting can be a positive trigger for some altars. And so yeah, I think that works well. Yeah, and I guess I'm still trying to get my head around what you're saying about trying to make sure that it's not the central part of a character. The reason I say that is, of course, no character is just their disability, but by nature, I think a lot of disabilities are do affect the way that everyone experiences every part of life. And I think the idea is particularly, affects people particularly in all parts of their life.
Wow, Joel, you just stole what I said. Wow.
But yeah, so yeah, and I will also say that I think that different authors deserve screen time and deserve to make connections with the audience, because these authors will likely be quite different. They'll be very, because they can be different genders, different ages, different hobbies, different, everything. They're different people. And so, I think you've got potential there to make those different connections to different audiences. They'll be to the same, quote unquote, to the same person, but not to the same character. Is that making sense? I feel like I described that really badly.
No, you absolutely did, and I 100% agree. And I did, I like the painting. I like the painting being a good trigger. So like I've got a couple triggers that I imagined. So Shalita and her twin Tyzon, they bicker. They are fighting. They kick each other. They are a lot of bickering, but the bickering upsets Alvira and brings out the protector personality. And I haven't gotten names for altars yet. So Shalita and Tyzon have to watch their language, and they learn to at least pretend to be nice to each other, so as not to trigger the protector from coming out. But there are some like good triggers. There is when Tyzon gets hurt. The caretaker comes out and nurses him. She caretakes him. Like she helps to bandage him up a bit, and that's where kind of her interest in nursing and the medical field kind of comes out. And I love the painting. Like if one alter doesn't like painting, hates painting, like this is stupid, and another alter comes out and just goes to town on the painting a mural kind of thing. I think that would be really beautiful. What do
Yeah.
you think?
I love that idea of their goal of being a doctor or working in the medicine field coming from the caretaker. Because something that I learned when I was preparing for my workshop a few weeks ago, the special workshop that we did, is that I learned that actually something more common than switching is, I forget what it's called now, passive influence, which is where there isn't a switch, but other alters can influence like emotions and mood and personality and different thoughts and stuff. So there's not a full switch, but another alter can influence other alters, one who is fronting. And so I guess that could maybe be a bit of an influence from the caretaker, which is something that I thought was quite cool. And just the way you said it. I'll see if I can get that page for you about passive influence.
Yeah.
Is that something you know of, or?
Not no.
Okay.
Not really. Because I see them. It's hard to. I don't quite understand how alters interact with each other, and that is something that I would like to learn. So, for example, you mentioned the painting, and so I'm imagining an alter loves to paint, another alter hates painting. What if two alters disagree on a color? Or what if each alter gets a different section of the building to paint or something? Like
Yeah, so it's communication in systems is complicated, and I would say that, so if I'm slow in talking, it's because I'm trying to find a clip from Dissociated, because I'm pretty sure that they did one. I'll try and find it for you later, because I'm not sure, but I'm gonna find it now. He says, but he's still determined to find it. Okay, so about a year ago, they posted a 2-part video, which I will share with you now.
okay.
And so there's two main ways, external and internal. So sometimes you might use the external world, where you're using a diary maybe, and one alter will write their thoughts, and then whenever the next alter switches out, they can use that same journal and read what someone else left like a message, or get their own thoughts out and that sort of thing, and that can be really healing for some people. And then there's internal, which is where it can be commonly misdiagnosed as schizophrenia, because you're hearing voices inside your head, and that's other alters communicating. So yeah, and it tends to be that people who have newly discovered that they are part of a system, they will have bad communication with other alters because of the amnesia and the dissociation and other things. It's really complicated, and I'd say, yeah, definitely do watch the 2 videos I posted there, and
Okay.
hopefully that will help.
Okay. I think I started watching the external. I didn't finish it, and I didn't get to the internal. I did see this in the list, but I'm glad you brought these up. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
All right. So going back to my original question, now that you maybe have an idea of what I want to do with this character, the question is how. All right. So the system's family just sees her as family. Shalita sees her as a friend. Now there is also the perspective
Sorry, can you
of
clarify that? I didn't get that. Shalita sees who as a friend?
Alvira, the system.
Oh, okay.
They become friends.
Right.
All right. So one of the questions is, do I portray how, say, some members of Shalita's family see her, see Alvira, the Alvira system? Which okay, I'm just going to clarify what's going on in my head. I am thinking in the beginning she will be introduced as Alvira, but by the end of the episode, her name will be switched to like maybe the Alvira system. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Just because the way that you're describing Alvira, it seems to me like you're almost describing everyone in Alvira as one person. Just I don't know, just the way that you're talking about her as if it's one person. So okay, let me answer this a different way. How many alters are in the system?
At the moment, I'm
Roughly.
thinking 4. At the
Okay.
moment.
Okay.
Uh, uh, so I'm thinking 4. It is. mm, mm. Okay, and it does make sense that while Shalita may be friends with one alter, maybe she's not friends with another alter. I haven't gotten that far into my looking into things. Um, mm, mm, mm.
Yeah, so I wanted to check just because the way that you were describing Alvira, it sounded like you were saying that they were one person, so I wanted to check how many there were. But yeah, it sounds good. The way that you want to show it, I don't see anything wrong with it. I was gonna say something else. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought. Because you wanted something specific. I can't remember what you wanted. What you wanted. Bye, Lasagna. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Lasagna. There are those basically outside the inner circle.
Mm-hmm.
would-
About family, yeah.
Like slightly more extended. And
Yeah, so I think that each family member will likely have their own connection with each alter to some extent. So, it wouldn't be like a relationship between Dad and Shalida and Dad and Alvira. It would be, Dad and, or what, and each alter, with likely the strongest or
that's-
closest
that's not
relationship being
question.
Shalida and Dad. Yeah.
That's not the question. The family, like the Systems family, they've been through this. They've got their whole setup, and that's completely separate. It is actually Shalida's family that I am wondering about. Particularly one character. She is cold and crass and very blunt, and like she says not really appropriate or nice things. She describes the family, the other family, as being 3 horseshoes short of a set. Um, uh, um, I don't like it. I don't basically an extended member of Kalida's family calling the system crazy,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
She would be the only one, and she's already kind of a dislikable character.
Mm-hmm.
I think be realistic, but I don't know if I want to even go there. Then what I was thinking is Shalita learns like what kind of happened to the family through like one of the matriarchs of her family. A completely separate character. Who gives her a very vague explanation of what happened to the family farm, why it ended up in such a disaster. What hinting at the trauma that Alvera suffered. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Your thoughts on any of it?
I'm sorry, I don't know why, but I'm struggling to see what you're struggling with. I think that it sounds good that you've got this character who is be almost bullying the other characters. That to me is fine to show. I think what I would want to know is what is the system's response? How do they react to that? I think could be something good to show.
At the moment, they don't have any interactions with. It is Shalita talking with her family, and then her seeing and learning something completely different on her own. The bully character and the system never meet, at least not in this episode.
Okay.
They're just kind of whispers in Shalita's ear kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fine. I think that's fine to show.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Willow. If either of you had any feedback for Willow, you're more than welcome to unmute and give it now. I'm always very aware that I can be quite a bit too dominating. I forget to open it up.
I'll just recap briefly. I'm working on a series of it features like it's kind of like an old west aesthetic, and features centaur herds and the different farms in this community. And one of the characters befriends another character with DID from a neighboring farm. That's kind of the gist of it. Okay, so one thing I wonder is I kind of like the like like Alvira working to become a doctor, and yes, I'm referring to her as a singular person there. Yes. Is it possible for I know different personalities front, but can they flip who the host is? So like as the caretaker learns more about medicine and grows like could she become the host of the body? Could she kind of overtake as the host?
Yeah.
Or the
So don't forget that the host is basic. Like there's nothing particularly special about the host over anyone else. The host is just a word for saying the alter who fronts the most, and thus will manage most of the body's activities. So yeah, and there can be more than one host. So if two alters are fronting relatively equally, then the body would have two co-hosts, and so that's pretty much all that changes. So yeah, it is possible to be switching hosts or to have more than one host. Yeah.
Okay.
What does happen with that sometimes? There are a few alter roles that the alter will lose. So, for example, if the alter was a trauma holder beforehand, and then they become host, then someone else would become a trauma holder, so that the host is able to function without all of those memories of the trauma. So the roles can switch. But yeah, I think, as far as I know, for most roles, that doesn't happen. So you might have an alter who is a host and a protector, or I think a host and a caretaker. I'd have to check that one. Just because the caretaker's role is, to look after the host. But yeah, you can switch hosts. Is the short version of that.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Now I need to. I basically. So I don't really outline at all.
Me neither.
But I do like character sheets. I list out who all of the characters are, their personalities, their problems or pluses, and so now I need to do that with each one of the alters.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to lie, it's a fun puzzle. Creating characters is so much fun to me.
Yeah. Yeah, and then with a system, you sort of think about how they all fit together, because though they have different experiences, they have the same experience in a way. If you put all of their experiences together, you will get one life, but different lives. It's a weird, I don't know, weird way of thinking about it. It adds that extra. I don't want to say challenge, but yeah, there's that extra element to it.
There was an analogy that Dissociate made, and it just finally made everything click into place. Because I couldn't understand. Well, where then would Alvira be? Where would and she described like breaking a glass bowl, shattering a glass bowl, and none of the pieces are Alvira, yet all of them are. And I don't know, I love that analogy. I want to somehow put that analogy in.
And that includes the host as well, which some people don't realize. The host is still a part of the system.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of want to figure out how to use that analogy, because I think that just kind of, I don't know. It works for me. I hope I've got the right idea and understanding. I've been watching these videos, and I've been watching a few others as well, but the Associated has been kind of the main one. So I just want to be respectful, as accurate as I can, although I understand I am taking a few liberties, a few fantastical liberties. Now that she already knows, her family already knows, her family already accepts her and embraces her. The outside world does not.
Yeah.
I need to work on how the alters, do they know about each other? Like, to what extent, how they communicate? I need to figure that one out. Yeah.
Cool. Hopefully, I was able to help you.
I think so. I think I am going to need to mention the trauma, or bring up the trauma. Nobody actually knows what happened to her. In fact, she doesn't even truly know. but I don't know. Should I share what I'm kind of thinking her trauma will be?
Yeah. Sure.
So this is actually somewhat sort of inspired by a real event, supposedly that I was told. It happened in my family's history. So one of the things I do wonder about, like, is kind of the distinction of what creates DID is repetitive trauma, and this isn't really repetitive necessarily, sort of. So anyway, I will explain. So when Alvira was 5 years old, that was 10 years ago from present day, 10 years ago, there was a flood, and it completely flooded and destroyed her farm. While her herd was evacuating, they became trapped, and she witnessed her entire family drown, and she herself was trapped alone for 4 days before she was found. So she has an extreme fear of water, rain, weather. Those are majorly bad. Those are the absolute worst. And so, like, there's a secret kind of fifth altar would come out during that time. This is actually inspired by a sort of real thing. Supposedly, was, I don't know, like maybe 1800s or even 17. I don't know. I had my ancestor sent all of their daughters to an orphanage. They kept their sons, but they got rid of all their daughters. The oldest, I think, was 14, as the story I remember. And there was a flood, and it wiped out the orphanage. And the oldest, the 14, was the only one to survive. And that was my ancestor, like my great 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 grandmother or something or like that. So I kind of took that story and kind of melded it with her world. What do you think?
Okay. So just to clarify, your character isn't in an orphanage. Is that right?
No, she is not.
Okay.
She was with her family.
Okay.
My ancestor was.
The problem here is that though this is a severe trauma and would be devastating to a child, it's not repetitive. It's not repeated childhood trauma, and so it's very unlikely that this alone would cause the character to develop DID. They might have PTSD, possibly CPTSD, but they're very like this alone. They're very unlikely to have DID. They're very very unlikely to have it. So you might have to rethink that. Like maybe you could have that being some of a trauma, but it can't be just that and have DID. As far as I know.
Okay, that is something that I kind of thought and wondered about. I kind of don't want to take it in as dark as being like abuse kind of thing, and I was trying to research like to what extent repetitive
Yeah.
it
I mean, there's not a lot I mean, there's more research now than there was 10 years ago or whatever, but there's still not lots of research done into it. And so there's no like known number of trauma that you have to endure or whatever. But it does have to be repeated childhood trauma. And so I wonder if I have that statistic up. Give me a second. I'm just trying to quickly find the bit that I want. So according to did-research.org, it says many types. Let me see if I can screen share this. Oh, I won't be able to quick. Yeah, hang on. So this is one of my favorite sites for research into DID.
Okay.
I think I've sent it in the past. If not, I will send it again in the chat. It says many types of trauma exist, including natural disaster, medical trauma, assault, bullying, abuse, domestic violence, etc., etc. However, DID can only be caused by repeated or long-term childhood trauma. And according to the DSM-5, which is what is used to diagnose, is that the manual that psychiatrists or psychologists will use to diagnose mental health disorders. About 90% of individuals with DID have experienced child abuse or neglect. There are other forms of trauma, medical and surgical procedures, war, human trafficking, and terrorism. Yeah. But yeah, again, it's only caused by repeated or long-term childhood trauma.
Okay, I'm reading it right now. This is painfully dark. Oh.
It is. It's a. Sorry, I should have given a trigger warning beforehand. You do. I didn't do that in my PowerPoint, did I?
Well, I mean, I knew.
It's a difficult topic to be looking at, and you do have to do it when you're in a good place mentally, because yeah, some of the stuff there is just really heavy.
Yeah, for sure. So see, this is honestly something that I was definitely worried about. And this is also one of those things where kind of like, how hard can you push the envelope in a fantastical world? Because you don't want to misrepresent something and people believe that it is something false. At the same time, like, there are things that are a bit too too dark and not appropriate. So like it's hard to find that line. And then there is uh the other thing, which honestly also sounds bad, is don't talk about it. Don't talk about the triggers. Don't we're just going to completely ignore that those triggers or that the not the triggers for switching, but what caused it. We're just not going to talk about it and pretend that doesn't exist. I think that's wrong also. So I really don't want to go the child trafficking abuse route. But I do want to portray a person with DID just living a normal life and finding their way in a community.
Yeah, it's a difficult topic, and that's why I was saying at the beginning, you don't have to include the trauma, because yeah, it really gets dark, and particularly in the first episode, I don't think you would want to go that dark. You know, you don't want to. Yeah, it's a lot to be taken on and to be learning about and stuff. So yeah, um, I I would just say that it's important that you represent it well, but there is a balance that is hard to find where you need to know when to not how do I say that properly? Like you need to know when to stop going into too much detail. You need to find where that point is, because it is so dark, for most people. You don't want to be turning away audiences.
Right. It's supposed to be a kind of a peaceful, feel good show.
Yeah.
It's just a show of families living on their farm, helping out their community.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't discourage you from having a character with DID, but I think if I was doing this, I don't think I would show or talk about the trauma. Maybe hint at it, but I don't think, because you say you want this to be feel good and you want this to not be the whole of the character, just you're gonna have to miss out that trauma, because if you kind of do it, you're not going to do it justice. You're not going to do it in a positive and helpful way. So it's a difficult call to make, but I think the answer there might just be not going into that detail.
I think so I think you're absolutely right. I don't want to risk misrepresenting. And in that case, honestly, I think the easiest way is for if she came from another herd, and she's basically adopted into the family.
Yeah, I think that would work really well, because then you might have it can be unclear from the parent's perspective as well as the system's perspective what went on, and then you don't have to go into too much detail. generally if a child is adopted, they've already gone through some stuff, so it's kind of implied at the same time.
Right.
So I
Right.
think that could be something that works. And you could also have, the child who's been adopted and after being adopted has also seen this flood, yeah. So I think that works. I think that's a good way of dealing with it.
Okay. All right. I think that's helped me put me onto some in the right direction.
Cool. And if you want more help in the next week or so, use the disability chat, and I will help you wherever I can, or point you in the right direction, hopefully.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Welcome, Nacho. I don't think I actually said hello yet. Is there anything that you would like to workshop, or anything linked to disability you want to talk about? Looks like he's busy at the moment. Okay. Do I have anything? I don't think I have anything for this week. I'm trying to, I've been working a lot on my TV pilot, which is a sci-fi drama, 60-minute pilot, and it's the one where 4 teenage girls are pushed in front of a train and they suffer life-changing injuries, and their lives are saved by these extraterrestrial pearls, which give them superpowers, essentially. And so I think the bit that I'm struggling with at the moment is I want it to be fairly fast-paced and dramatic, but at the same time, I feel like I need to be showing the rehabilitation process of, so a couple of them have lost limbs and one of them has become paralyzed below the waist. So, how do I show that rehabilitation process? That's not the main story, but I kind of feel like it should be. I'm sort of conflicted with that at the moment.
I feel your problem so much. Yeah, that's kind of a rough thing because most movies just well, it's either about that or they just skim right over it, and oh look, now they're all badass. Um, uh, at the bare minimum, definitely have a montage. Uh, okay, what if there is an initial montage of the rehabilitation, but then things happen, like they're not strong enough in their prosthetic during a battle or something, or I don't know the story, I don't know where it's going, I've only seen like the train scenes. There, like, what if there are like complications, like to basically show that even though we are not watching the we are not watching the physical therapy and the building and whatnot, that it is still happening in the background.
like that idea actually, because then you're not slowing the tempo too much, but you're still showing it. Yeah, I like that actually. Thank you. I don't know why I didn't think of that. I use montages all the time.
That's one of the things, and this is going to be my new, I'm going to say this over and over and over all day long, kind of phrase. A character. Can you still picture is the character still doing something? Are they still? Can you picture that character still living their life, even though they're not in the focus? They're not even mentioned. You just turned the camera away from them. Do they still exist, or do they stop existing?
So, I missed that. What was that, sorry?
If you turn the camera away from a character, do they stop existing? Or can you picture what they are doing when they're not the focus?
You can still, they're still living, I guess.
They're still living. They're living their day-to-day lives. They're going their normal, what they would do away from. And that, I think, is when you know you've got a good round character, is even though you turn away, like, you would not be at least a bit surprised if you turned around and they're, I don't know, like, they live beyond what we see in film.
Yeah, thank you.
So,
Oh, sorry, go on.
No, you go.
I was going to open the floor again, but if you've got something, then go ahead.
No, I was going to go back to you. Was there anything else that that you needed or want to discuss your project at all?
I don't think so. I'm on page 40, I think. So I'm nearing the end. But I think I'm gonna have to like, because like you, I'm not a planner, but I'm realizing that I'm sort of halfway. No, I'm not quite halfway through the story, and I'm on page 40. So I might have to do a bit of rejig and stuff and trying to restructure it and figure out my structure before I actually write. Because I've never been much of a planning person. But boy, am I seeing the benefits of it now.
Yeah, I get that. I'm in the middle of editing my pilot episode. And no, let me strike that. I'm still at the beginning. I'm on page 4, trying to edit. And I feel like the story is all there that I want. The characters are there, but it just it's the minutia. It's the teeny tiny stupid things that I'm getting tripped up on. It's not even like the big stuff. Like, for example, all right, something that I am getting tripped up on is the name of kind of what amounts to a throwaway character. He's this old, crotchety guy. He is from Alvira's herd, and he is coming to buy pies, but he specifically orders more pies than what they have available. So now they have to go and deliver it. And he's just ornery and being a major a-hole. And I think my dialogue isn't horrible. It's his name. I can't figure out his name. We don't really even see him in this episode, aside from that this one interaction. We might see him in passing in the next episode, and I can't decide on a name. That's the stuff I spend days on.
Yeah, it's one of the trickiest bits about story making.
It's so frustrating. Like, I'd rather be stuck on something, I don't know, fun, something important, unraveling a puzzle. And then there is the how much to lean into a stereotype and to not. So I avoid stereotypes like the plague. But he is kind of meant to be a stereotype, kind of a. Can I say? Stereotypes are born from actual characteristics. That doesn't make stereotypes true. It just means there really are people like him. The Karens of the world. The diversity of the world. I don't know. Anyone got some name ideas of, without being too stereotypical, set in a fantasy world, what an old crotchety get off my lawn kind of a guy would be?
I've never written fantasy, so I can't really help you. I can help you with a website that I use for names, and may generate a list of names that you could use. Maybe. Give me a second. Where is it? Yeah.
Oh, it has all the resources.
Yeah. I have too much information in my brain, and it's never available when I need it. There you go. There's a fantasy name generator there. I've not used a fantasy one before because, like I say, I've never written fantasy. But yeah.
All right. I'm checking it out now.
Yeah, cool website with lots of generators to be used. I guess that this is the last call for anyone who has anything that they want feedback on, or to workshop, or ideas to bounce around, whatever you would like. If not, I will find an image of a disabled person to post in the disability feedback channel. And the deadline for that will be what date is it? 2 weeks from now. The 19th.
19th.
Yeah. Oh, you were meant to have 2 weeks for this. So for disability in fiction, that was meant to be 2 weeks. You had to do the writing prompt there. I will find an image just after the workshop is finished. But yeah, I think we'll finish up the event there. Thank you everyone for coming. We'll be back next week on WordCamp for disability in fiction, where we look at all types of media, except screenplays, near enough. And yeah, hopefully you bring something to get feedback on, or have some ideas about topics you want to discuss. No topic is really off limits, or maybe you've watched a piece of media that shows disability. Oh, actually, there was one I saw recently that wasn't actually disability. I saw Sweet Tooth. That's a series I've been binge watching recently. Has anyone else seen that?
I haven't actually watched it. I have seen like previews for it.
Yeah, that's what got me into watching it as well. It's quite good. I'd recommend you watch it, because though it's not really about disability, there are these hybrids which are half human, half animal, and they're hated by some members of society. And there's like lots of disability themes. So what that stood out for me was at the end of series 1, the main character Gus, who is part human, part deer, he finds a community of people like him, and like what that means to him as someone who's all by himself, who it feels like it's him against the world because he's the only one he knows like that. And we hear him saying, I wish there were people like me. Like, I want to travel to where there's people like me, and how that's similar to, living with a disability. I think you naturally long to be with people who are like you, whether it's someone with a similar disability, or sometimes just anyone with any form of disability. You look for someone who has that shared experience that, yeah, so I mean, I remember the first time I met the co-host of a podcast that I do about disability. And we spent just 20 minutes, 30 minutes, talking about all the stuff that we had been through as disabled people in an able-bodied world. And, I was reminded of that by seeing that moment at the end of a series.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. All right, I'll check it out.
Yeah. Oh, there was another moment where, I think I said this in Disability Chat channel, there was this moment where one of the adults also had a baby who was a hybrid, and he ran away because he wasn't sure what to do with it. Like, what do you do with an animal child? That's what he called it. Like, he just panicked, and that happens sometimes as a part of a disabled person. You're like, what do I do? Like, this isn't what I expected, and maybe, when you're pregnant, everyone says, oh, I hope you have a healthy baby. And so you sort of have that expectation that your baby's going to be able-bodied and, all of these things. And when it doesn't match up to your expectation, like, oh, what do I do? So I think it's a good watch.
I've taken notice of that more and more of things I've seen. Yeah. Oh, what are you expecting? We don't really care. We just want a healthy. Okay. We want a healthy American. And those words I'm saying now are a lot more cringe than it sounds sweet from one perspective and absolute cringe when you think deeper about it.
Yeah. Alright then. I will post that prompt in the disability feedback channel. And again, if during the week you have anything you would like feedback on, you can post it in there. We'll be back next week for disability in fiction. And yeah, hope you all have a wonderful week. Best of luck with your writing.
Just as a reminder, I'm pretty sure, Joel, you won't be here.
Yeah, I won't. Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah, I'll be hosting that week. So.
Yeah. And if I can, I will listen in.
Okie dokie.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful week.
All right. Bye.